Battle Through the Heavens God, the Flame Emperor Chapter 156, Fourier. Fourier. Come out for this old man. Hudu was also very carefree. Obviously he was still a long way from the door, and then he shouted, "Haha, who am I to be yelling at the door of the person in charge? So it's Hudu, you old man." A haggard-faced middle-aged man also came out of the door, and said to Hudu. There was a hint of sarcasm in the voice. The middle-aged man also knew that Hudu and their general manager were brothers from the same sect. "Get out of the way." Hudu apparently ignored the ridicule of the middle-aged man, and said to the person blocking the road, "Oh, why did you come back at the end this time, old man? All the people we brought in have already completed the test yesterday, so your group is the only one left," the haggard-faced middle-aged man said. The middle-aged man who blocked the way was Shen Yu, and he was also a messenger who was in charge of fetching other places on the Xuanling continent, but there was some friction with Hudu during the fetching process before being taught by Hudu and thus losing face. He confronted Hudu everywhere. After all, Hudu was a peak powerhouse of the 5-star Dodi, and this Shen Yu was only in the middle stage of the 5-star Dodi, so he was one head shorter than Hudu. It doesn't hurt to stand and talk. Hudu is also a person with vicious eyes. Seeing Shen Yu so plain, after thinking about it, the person in charge will definitely not let Shen Yu know about the disappearance. He calmed down and replied calmly, "On the edge of the Xuanling continent, some of the places are just backcountry. What kind of talented people can come out? It seems that this time you are running for nothing," Shen Yu also said with a smile. Shen Yu's words just fell when he saw the aura of the 9 people behind the old Hudu suddenly exuding, and then he shook his head. But the strongest is only the peak of the 3-star Dodi. Such a strength is not even a 3rd-class talent. If you can't produce someone with extraordinary talent, you won't have to worry about it. Since things are done, let's go. Hudu also turned to look at the 9 people behind him, and then said, "Old Hudu, the person in charge is too busy right now, so he might not be able to see you." Shen Yu also frowned. "Do you still want to suffer from flesh and blood?" Hudu was too lazy to pay attention to this Shen Yu, and his terrifying doqi was exuding. "You." Hearing what Hudu said, Shen Yu's face also showed a trace of displeasure, apparently because he was afraid of this Hudu. "Let's see." After speaking, he also left the door, and then he didn't forget to curse a few words before leaving. "Ha ha ha, I knew it was you." "Who?" The doorway that was blocked by Shen Yu suddenly shook violently, and then everyone saw a middle-aged man in a robe appearing out of thin air. "After all, no one will do this except you at my door." After the middle-aged man appeared, he put one hand on Hudu's shoulder, and then slowly smiled at Hudu. Obviously, the relationship between the two is also very good, and then the huge aura on Hudu was slowly withdrawn from his body. Tier space. 6-star Dode. Xiaoyan also exclaimed when he saw this. After all, in this Dode continent, in order to tear apart the space, apart from using some very rare divine weapons, it is only possible to achieve it with strength. Looking at this high-spirited middle-aged man, there seems to be no other fluctuations in his body, so Xiaoyan is absolutely certain that this person in front of him is a genuine 6-star Dode powerhouse. "You and Shen Yu really do this every time." The middle-aged man also laughed. "This is our chief executive here, Wu Zhong." Mo Chen also hurriedly introduced to everyone. Everyone hears the words and greets them with respect. "It's good to be back. Is the road going well?" Wu Zhong also asked. "It's still like that, it's just that it took a little too long to come and go." Hudu also responded with a smile. "I told you not to go anywhere, but you didn't listen." Wu Zhong also shook his head and said, "Isn't you there? I just happened to drop by to see him. After all, we parted back then, but we haven't been together for a long time." Hudu also looked at Yuara and said, "Yu seems to have a daughter, and she's not too young. I don't know what's going on now." Wu Zhong also looked at the sky and said, "No, isn't that right?" Hudu pointed slightly, pointing to where Yuara was. "This breath." Wu Zhong also frowned and sensed the breath on Yuara's body. The younger generation has seen Uncle Wu, and has long heard of his father's 2 life-threatening friends, Uncle Hu and Uncle Wu. Yuara also spoke wisely to Wu Zhong. Hey, it turns out that you are the daughter of Yu. No wonder I said the aura on your body is a little familiar." Wu Zhong said with a smile. "Is your father all right?" I heard that he was attacked by monsters before, but his strength was not moving forward. Wu Zhong said. I went to Qingcheng under his control. His injury is also healed. And his current strength is also at the peak of 5-star Dode. Hu Du smiled. That's good. The three of us parted ways that day, but we haven't seen each other for many years. When I'm done working here, I'll find him to drink with him for 3 days and 3 nights. Wu Zhong also smiled bitterly. Yuero also responded with a smile. Everyone looked at Yuero, but they didn't expect that this seemingly small Yu family had something to do with these two. Don't look at me, these are my father's affairs, and he seldom tells me. Seemingly aware of Xiaoyan's surprised eyes, Yuero also tried her best to explain it for fear of being misunderstood. Hearing that, Xiaoyan was also dumbfounded and then looked at Hu Du and Wu Zhong. Come in and let's talk about something. After a brief exchange between the two, Wu Zhong also found that Hu Du's expression was not very good, and it was obvious that there was something important, and said, Yeah. Hu Du replied. Mo-chan, take them down to test. Then report the results to me. This group of people seems to have good seedlings. Wu Zhong also glanced at the 9 people in front of him, and then said to Mo-chan. Everyone was swept away by Wu Jiang's seemingly simple gaze, but their bodies were slightly shocked, as if they had been probed completely. Yes. Mo-chan also respectfully said. Follow me, everyone. Mo-chan also said to Juran. Hearing that, the 9 people also followed Mo-chan away and went to the testing place. As for the missing persons, it is obviously not something they can worry about. What did the missing person say? Hu Du also said straight to the point when he saw everyone leaving and only himself and Wu Zhong were left in the house. The missing people this time seems a bit strange. According to the people below, the number of people who are in charge of receiving and guiding in our base is all in full. At the same time, they also saw them get off the ferry. And we have people here who are in charge of patrolling the whole process. From the ferry boat to the test square, it's really strange that they just disappeared out of thin. Chapter 157, Zhong family 2 people, escape from death. How so? Did someone play tricks in secret? Hu Du also asked. No, I have put all the suspects in this stronghold under house arrest, but I haven't asked why. I suspect that this is most likely a conspiracy. Wu Zhong also changed his smile and said solemnly. After all, he manages this stronghold. This stronghold serves as the destination for receiving messengers, and is responsible for registering and testing new disciples. This sudden disappearance of 61 people, because of Wu Jiang's calm personality, can't help but feel very difficult. After all, although he is not afraid of the families behind the missing disciples, these newcomers have disappeared from the site he managed. Even it is not easy to explain to the sect, let alone the families behind these missing newcomers. This made Wu Zhong anxious. When Hu Du heard the words, he was also extremely worried. After all, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. Moreover, if this matter is not resolved and the people above know it, then this friend of his life and death will be in trouble. At this time, Hu Du also knew why he wanted to suppress this matter. Otherwise, once it became a big issue, it would not be good for anyone, but the top priority now is how to solve it. Have you searched for this base carefully? Ferry to the square, including the residences of those missing. Hu Du also rolled his eyes, thinking of a solution. I've searched for them. I personally went to check their residences and found nothing unusual. Wu Zhong also said. Hearing this, Hu Du also frowned. If it is said that the strength of his brother, a 6-star Dode, has not been found any abnormal, then this matter is very strange. But you said that the road from the ferry to the test square has not been inspected. After all, there are soldiers patrolling everywhere, and their quality is obvious to all, so there is no inspection. Wu Zhong also seemed to remember something, then said, Yeah. Hu Du, who was originally worried after hearing this, also had his eyes lit up. Go there and see. You can't let go of any place. Hu Du also said. You arrived after a long journey, so let's take a break and talk about it later. Wu Zhong also said with concern. Go. After Hu Du finished speaking, he took the lead and walked out. Wu Zhong was also quite moved when he saw Hu Du, who was acting resolutely, because he also knew that so many people were missing. Therefore, Hu Du's hurried actions on this trip are undoubtedly to help himself. I hope the two boys from the Zhong family are all right, otherwise it will be difficult for me to communicate with each other. After thinking about this, Wu Zhong also followed, and the two walked towards the path outside the square. On the path from the ferry to the test plaza, it looked the same as usual, but under that path, it was a different scene. 1,000 meters below the path, there is another look. Thousands of meters below the path, in a dark stone room, there is a cold pool in the center of the stone room, and there are many black figures standing beside the cold pool. Looking at this place carefully, the cold pond is not big, only about a zhong in diameter. The water is dark black, and it looks very deep. A black figure stood by the pool, looked at the water quietly, and suddenly asked, "How are things going?" "It's almost there. All 59 humans are asleep, as long as the time comes to throw them into the pool." A weaker figure stood up and said, "Then there are 2 more." The figure standing in the pool clearly said angrily, "There are still 2 people who were caught, and they escaped." The weaker figure also whispered, "Trash." After saying that, the figure standing by the pool opened his mouth wide, and the weak figure who just answered was directly swallowed by it. After it was swallowed, there were no traces left, but the aura on the figure by the pool now grew a little bit stronger, making it look extraordinarily eerie and gloomy. "Search them for me, otherwise you will die." After speaking, many figures under Chixia also moved. Selection of disciples. This time, you will definitely lose more than you gain. Woohoo! He muttered to himself while looking at the deep pool water. There are too many roads in this passage, extending in all directions. I saw 2 figures running fast in a tunnel, as if they were avoiding something. One of the tall figures shouted loudly, and the wooden sword in his hand suddenly burst out with a powerful blue light, slashing down with a sword in the sky. Immediately, the powerful sword energy instantly hit the wall of the passage, and a loud noise came, and the passage was also blocked by its fragments, but the fragments splashed several feet high. Immediately afterwards, many figures were turned into countless black smoke by this terrifying sword, but the black gas also slowly emerged from the inside of the passage, and then condensed a black figure that was exactly the same as the original. "Brother, what is this?" A protected figure also said. "Shh, don't talk. I feel that these things are not human. Their aura is a little eerie." The figure who had just split the sword energy also said, "It's strange to say that they came here to test, and after getting off the ferry, they were walking to the square when they suddenly fainted and woke up in this dark passage. Thanks to their strong skills, they were not caught by those people, so they escaped as soon as they woke up. And this channel seems to be slowly swallowing their doqi, so doqi can't be used too much." After the tall figure slashed out with a sword, he bit his right index finger, and threw his blood essence with terrifying power behind them viciously, and immediately pulled up his younger brother, who was weaker than himself, and started walking. At this time, I don't care if the source is damaged. Otherwise, if they are caught, that blood essence suddenly turned into a blue dragon, and instantly poured into the passage behind them. As soon as Blue Dragon appeared in the passage, his power suddenly exploded, and the countless black smoke chasing after him also turned into thin strands and disappeared into the air. However, the entire passageway shook violently. Feeling this vibration, the figure by the pool also made some strange noises. But just when he was puzzled, a black beam of light shot out from the bottom of the pool next to him, breaking through the suppression of the pool water and rushing into the midair of the stone chamber. But as soon as the black beam of light rushed out of the bottom of the pool, it immediately gathered into a dazzling and even weirder black beam from all directions, and instantly forced the black beam of light back down. "It's still early, don't worry," the figure standing by the pool also said greedily. The tall figure pulled the weak younger brother forward continuously. His younger brother was surprised, and his mouth kept screaming. And the tall figure followed the voice of his younger brother, and when he saw the 2 figures in front, his expression changed greatly, and he shouted to his younger brother, "Come on. Go back and tell Mr. Wu that this trial cannot start." After speaking, he pushed it out, and then blocked the passage. Then one person took over the 2 people in front of him with 2 rays of light, one black and one white, and the 2 rays of light swept away wildly, slashing the tall figure. At this time, the man next to Hanchi took off his disguise, and it turned into a black gas, and then formed a black figure, very gloomy, like a Chapter 158, Probe. The eldest brother of the two who escaped in the passage is named Zhong Yu, and the younger brother is named Zhong Yuan. The two are brothers and have some connections with Wu Zhong. They came here this time without telling their family. Wu Jiang is naturally worried about their safety. Zhong Yu was quite satisfied when he saw his younger brother go far away, and then turned his head to see the two figures in front of him, black and white, like ghosts. His face changed slightly. The enemy in front of him used to be a ghost, but he has never dealt with it, and he does not remember that his family has provoked an enemy of this level. After a brief thought to no avail, Zhong Yu also acted decisively, because he knew that with his current strength and in this strange space, he could not beat any of the two in front of him. And they had just woken up from a coma, and they found that besides them, many figures were also caught here. Although I don't know who these are and what they are doing, there is no doubt about it. There must have been a conspiracy to it. So he was attacked by two black and white figures in the short crotch, and then he ran away in the opposite direction of his brother's escape. Damn it! Who are these people? Extraterritorial evil race? But why do I feel that their breath is not like that alien evil race? The breath is gloomy and weird. Zhong Yu also wondered. Chase. One person? They must not be allowed to escape, otherwise you will know your end. The black figure said to the white figure. I know, it's really long-winded. After speaking, the white figure's speed skyrocketed, chasing towards the place where Zhong Yuan escaped, and at that speed, a trace of strange and gloomy gas also remained. Let's see where you are fleeing now. The black figure was chasing after Zhong Yu's escape. It's here. Hu Du also said to Wu Zhong. Then, regardless of Wu Jiang, he directly and carefully probed the land. 100 meters. 200 meters. 700 meters? This was already Hu Du's limit, but he still didn't find anything unusual, so he had no choice but to do it. Haven't you checked this place? Hu Du also said depressedly. How can such a thing be sloppy? If one accidentally provokes the above to blame, the consequences are very serious. It is said that there have been problems here before, but the number of people is within the controllable range, so it was suppressed by the high-level force. Wu Zhong also said slowly. How come? It's all about life. Hu Du was obviously angry and said angrily. Hey, old Hu, listen to me. This stronghold I'm in charge of has only had this kind of thing happen in recent years, but every time the number of people missing is only within 10, so the top management didn't pay too much attention. It's just this, I don't know why so many people disappeared at one time. Wu Zhong also said in a humming tone. As you know, this is not our Suan sect after all, it's just a small sex site, so we just borrow it. It's not easy to dig 3 feet to investigate these sites, otherwise. Wu Zhong was also there. Degree said. This. Hu Du's originally angry eyes also became blurred. His friend of life and death said it so clearly, he didn't know where he was. What Wu Zhong means is that this is not their own territory, they just borrowed the entrance of the local sect for testing and selection, and he has checked all the places that can be explored. Although there are some places that are suspicious, they are not authorized to enter. Just like the piece of land under their feet, this is the cultivation square of other sects, and it is impossible to dig 3 feet into the ground to investigate. This is the territory of that sect. Hu Du also whispered. Obviously Wu Zhong also knew that there might be some problems with this sect. This is. Wu Zhong also said in a low voice. Hey, what are you doing? A little boy with a milky voice also watched Wu Zhong and Hu Du go back and forth on this path, and couldn't help but ask. It's nothing, we're taking a walk. Old Hu, do you think so? Wu Zhong also patted Hu Du on the shoulder. Yes. Hu Du also laughed, and then the two walked away slowly. This person is the only son of this section. Wu Zhong also said. Well, why is this child's aura a bit weird? Hu Du pondered. Have you found it too? I sensed it long ago, but I just don't know what it is. Wu Zhong also said. Seeing what Hu Du was trying to say, Wu Zhong also gestured shyly, then attached to his ear and said something. In the square, a group of people also walked slowly with Mo Chen. After all, they missed the good opportunity of testing, and now they are only testing for them alone. Master, what did you say you sensed just now? Xiaoyan also wondered. On the small road where he got off the ferry, he felt an eerie aura. If it wasn't for the reminder from his master, the Golden Dragon King, Xiaoyan wouldn't have found it. That thing, if I guessed correctly, the breath should be unique to the creatures in the ghost world. We will turn it into a ghost. The Golden Dragon King also said indifferently. Ghost energy. Xiaoyan also said in surprise. Obviously he was quite puzzled when he heard this title for the first time. The so-called ghost qi is the same as the energy in you, but it is called douqi in you. However, this ghost energy is extremely eerie and strange. Once it is invaded into the body, it will affect the mind if it is serious. The Golden Dragon King also explained. Hearing this, Xiaoyan was also suddenly enlightened. How come the qi of this ghost world are here in Suan 3 days, and will the population they use have something to do with them? Xiaoyan also muttered to himself. Hey, these are not your worries. What you have to do now is to join the Burning Incense Pavilion through selection after the test. As for the missing matter, Wu Zhong will naturally handle it. But you have to be careful yourself. After all, the ghosts of the ghost world will appear here, and there must be some conspiracy from them. Yeah. Xiaoyan also responded. What's wrong? Yuero also watched Xiaoyan laugh and frown for a while, but the second monk was really confused, so he asked aloud. It's fine. Xiaoyan was also afraid of being discovered, and tried his best to cover it up. Lu Yin on the side and Xiaohan on her shoulders were also looking around. Apparently it was this strange place that made them feel quite fresh. A few other people followed Mo Chen without saying a word. As the footsteps got closer, a rather luxurious house appeared in front of everyone. It's here, come in. Mo Chen also said to everyone with a smile. Everyone also walked into the luxurious house one after another. As soon as they entered the luxurious room, they didn't see the many gold and silver treasures they imagined. There were just many crystal and some they didn't know what they were, but at a glance they knew they were tools for Chapter 159, The Test Begins. The 9 people came to the house one after another, and then their tense nerves relaxed a little. After all, they had also met the chief executive just now. Since entering the room, Mo Chen has also carefully observed the movements of several people. After all, according to what the general manager of Wujiang said, from the moment they got off the ferry, everything they did here was related to the test results. A person's future achievements and talents must be related to many factors such as his behavior. Mo Chen first paid attention to Murray with an impatient look on his face. He casually looked at the crystal and furnishings in the room, and then cursed at something. Immediately afterwards, there was the living dead ginseng deficiency, which still looked pale. When he entered the room, he didn't look at it much. Instead, he covered his mouth with a piece of gauze, and some dark blood was coughed out. Then, with Mo Chen's vicious eyes, he also discovered that Mueller and Shen Su seemed to be just as out of place as the others. Of course, Mo Chen didn't interfere too much. After all, this is their own business, and they are also paying attention to several other people. The next person who came in was a woman with the appearance of a small beast standing on her shoulder. The small beast on her shoulder was also chirping, exuding an invisible cold air, which made the temperature in the entire room suddenly drop. Xiao Han, don't be fooled. Lu Yin also said sharply to Xiao Han on his shoulder, and then stroked the latter's feathers with one hand, which is strange to say. A blue light on Xiao Han's body melted away, and the severe cold in the room also disappeared. Then Lu Yin also looked around the room like a curious baby. As for the demon charm, it also exudes a seductive aura and is stable. Now in the room, a pair of eyes glowing with autumn water is also slowly turning. Although this is definitely related to the practice of his method, it is because Mo Chen's concentration is also control. He couldn't stop, so he quickly turned his eyes away. Wang Zhong and Sun Ming, a martial expert and a sword expert, naturally wouldn't go to investigate the house. As for Yura, Feng Yi, and Xiaoyan, their eyes never left Mo Chen's body from the very beginning, and Mo Chen also felt that these 3 were obviously highly educated. Then, he nodded in relief, as if he had some ideas. This is where we store the instruments used for the test. The test is divided into 4 parts. The first part is the strength test, the second part is the soul strength test, the third part is the physical fitness test, and the fourth part is the according to the above 3 test data. The talents of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are comprehensively given. The previous people have all been tested, and now the people in our stronghold are less than a few of you who haven't tested yet. After all the tests are completed, the talent points of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 will be announced uniformly. As for the so-called trials, it's based on your test results, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 talents. Mo Chen also said slowly, so as to give them some time to react. When everyone heard the words, it was also suddenly clear that the so-called test consists of 3 parts, one's own strength and soul strength plus the test of physical strength. Then the 5th level talent in the 4th part is the responsibility of their responsible person. So which of you will come first? Mo Chen also gave a brief introduction and then said, everything is difficult at the beginning, let me come first. Sun Ming also grinned, obviously not a little worried about this so-called test. After all, although his soul strength is weaker, he have his own strength and physical strength. It is a great advantage, and Sun Ming is also confident. Among the 9 people in the test, there will be no one whose physical strength exceeds his own. Okay, come on, just pour your vindictive energy into the crystal ball. Mo Chen was relieved to hear that, and then took out a gorgeous crystal ball. Sun Ming strode forward, and then the breath in his body increased to the limit, the muscles on his body also swelled, and the blue veins burst out. A trace of aura separated from Sun Ming's body, uncontrollably, and then went towards the crystal ball in Mo Chen's hand. 3. Star Do De Peak. Mo Chen felt the light overflowing from the crystal ball, and then said. Hearing this, everyone was not surprised. After all, before entering the ruins, Sun Ming already possessed the strength of the peak 3-star Dodi. Next. Mo Chen also said after registering. The next few people followed Sun Ming's method and injected them into the crystal ball in exactly the same way. Wang Zhong, mid 3-star Dodi. Demon Charm, the pesk of 3-star Dodi. Feng Yi, the peak of 3-star Dodi. Muller, the mid 3-star Dodi. The Living Dead, the peak of 3-star Dodi. Feng Yi, peak of 3-star Dodi. Yuro, the mid 3-star Dodi. Xiaoyan, peak 3-star Dodi. After simply registering the strength levels of the 9 people, Mo Chen is also preparing to start the second part of the test. But in the first part of the test of strength just now, Mo Chen discovered some of the secrets of these 9 people. For example, Wang Zhong, although only have the strength of mid 3-star Dodi, but the sharp eyes and the giant sword behind him, if there is no sword energy, is slowly diffused, although even the strength of this 3-star Dodi in the mid stage, ordinary people do not dare to underestimate. Next is Fenji, a woman in a colorful skirt, a woman with 2 attributes of wind and thunder. As we all know, there is only one kind of attribute in a normal person. First, it is for the convenience of cultivation. Otherwise, there are too many attributes, and the reason is that the attribute is not overwhelming. On the other hand, there is one kind of attribute and another kind of attribute. In between, it is extremely difficult to control, let alone cultivate to this level. It is unexpected that this seemingly silent woman in a colorful skirt is so powerful. Followed by a woman named Juoro with a faint smile, Mo Chen felt that there was something familiar in the aura when she was emitting aura. She seemed to have seen it somewhere before and thought about it carefully. This seems to be the aura of the sect master of a certain sect in Suan 3 days, but I don't know why this woman also has the same aura. Next is Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan gave him the feeling that it was unfathomable, even with Mo Chen's initial strength of the 4-star Dode, he couldn't find out why. Although Mo Chen's strength is not a frontal battle, but the technique of manipulating puppets. The strength of the few people around Xiaoyan has also made great progress, and he is quite surprised. Obviously, they all have some strange adventures in the ruins, otherwise it is impossible to advance in a short period of time. But Xiaoyan also did not worried, because now his soul power has recovered to the peak, not to mention that his avatar of the Emperor's ordinary soul entity and the avatar of his Do technique, together with the many means like the Lotus of Destruction and the Golden Demon Puppet, are also have enough confidence to stand out in this trial. The second part is the soul test. Mo Chen also, Chapter 160, Amazing Soul Power. This second part is the soul test that is also very simple. As long as you stimulate the soul power in your soul realm, this instrument will automatically recognize its level. Soul strength is divided from 1 to 10, 1 is the lowest and 10 is the highest. Come on. After Mo Chen finished speaking, the lights in the room suddenly went out, and an extra radiant bead appeared in his hand. Good guy, it's actually sucking the spirit beads. Lu Yin also said when she saw the beads in Mo Chen's hand. What is a spirit bead? Xiaoyan also asked. The so-called lingzu is an item specially used by some sects to test the talents of their disciples. It is said that this bead is very valuable. And on our Dou continent, as long as everyone has Dou Qi since birth, even if they haven't specially cultivated soul power, they will have some soul power. It's just that the strength and weakness of this soul force vary from person to person, and it's hard for ordinary people to find out. Yuero also said. When he was on the Douqi continent, Xiaoyan only knew that the soul levels of their alchemist were mortal realm, spirit realm, heaven realm, and emperor realm. Each realm is divided into 3 subgrades: early stage, middle stage, and great perfection. Spiritual realm, the 8th grade pills can be made in the heaven, the 9th grade pills can be made in the heavenly realm, and the emperor grade pills can be made in the emperor realm. After thinking about it, Xiaoyan also came to Mo Chen, and just wanted to test it, but unexpectedly Wang Zhong and several people suddenly appeared in front of him, and then moved their eyes sharply at Xiaoyan, as if to signal something. Xiaoyan nodded knowingly upon seeing this, so he had no choice but to do it. Wang Zhong, the soul power is 4. Mo Chen also said softly. Compared to Wang Zhong, he was not surprised at all. After all, the power of the soul is something intangible and illusory. He is more willing to spend more time practicing swordsmanship than the sword behind him. Sun Ming, soul power is 3. Mo Chen also spoke slowly. Hehe, you old reckless man, your soul power is actually so much weaker than mine. Wang Zhong said to Sun Ming with satisfaction. Soul power is not suitable for me, but it's the most suitable for me. Sun Ming also grinned, not at all displeased by Wang Zhong's taunting. And even though your soul strength is 4, you seem to be stronger than me. Why don't we go out and fight once? Sun Ming also smiled honestly. Wang Zhong also hurriedly shut up when he heard the words. Although he was a sword expert, he didn't want to fight Sun Ming, because when they were still in the 7 major cities, the two often fought each other, so they were familiar with each other. The bloodline of a warrior is no joke. Even though he has mastered some knacks of sword intent, Wang Zhong doesn't care about the physical damage he suffers when he fights. Mueller, the soul power is 5. Shensu, the soul power is 5. Living Dead, soul power is 6. Lu Yin, soul power is 6. Feng Yi, the soul power is 7. Yura, the soul power is 7. Mo Chen looked at the people in front of him and shook his head. Although it is good that the soul power is 7, but to win the name of the best 5th-class talent, obviously the soul power is the most important here, and the least is also necessary. Only a soul power of 8 is possible. So he looked helplessly at the 8 people in front of him. Xiaoyan looked at himself slightly. Even if Feng Yi and Yura were only rated as 7 in terms of the power of their Emperor Realm souls, then if he was fully calculated, maybe 8 would be the limit, but it is useless to think so much now. Then go up one step ahead, looking at Mo Chen. Senior brother Mo, I haven't tested it yet. Xiaoyan also spoke out as if he noticed that Mo Chen's eyes suddenly dimmed, with an absent-minded look. Oh, look at how impatient I am, I remembered it wrong. I thought the test was over, ha ha ha. Mo Chen was also laughing. Outstanding people, the resources they can get will be very rich, but they can't be treated differently just because they are mediocre talents, otherwise they will be known by the people above, but they have violated Suan 3 days taboo. Come on. Just follow the way they were before. Speaking of which, Xiaoyan also closed his eyes and calmed down, and then communicated the power in his soul realm to move towards the suction bead in Mo Chen's hand. In the dark room, with the appearance of Xiaoyan's soul power, it instantly became brighter. Mo Chen was also shocked by the sudden and huge soul power, and then changed his lazy state just now and carefully stared at the suction bead in his hand. Humph, pretending to be mysterious. Mueller was also very unhappy with Xiaoyan's actions. After all, he was defeated by Xiaoyan in the ruins before, and then his father went to Yu's house to arrest Xiaoyan, and was given a great gift by Xiaoyan. Therefore, he was extremely resentful towards Xiaoyan. This kid, why do you feel that your soul power has improved a bit? Wang Zhong also said, it is obvious that the soul power that Xiaoyan has released now is stronger than when he was in Qingcheng and the ruins. I heard that in addition to his powerful soul, Xiaoyan is also a first-grade emperor alchemist. Feng Yi was obviously surprised. She had heard this before, but she didn't take it to heart after all. An alchemist has the most basic 3 conditions for refining medicine: materials, fire, and soul perception. Xiaoyan owns the materials and fire, but as for soul power, Feng Yi will definitely not believe it. Just looking at it at this time, Feng Yi also frowned slightly. Obviously, this countless evidence shows that this Xiaoyan is very likely to be a first-rank emperor alchemist. Even if he can reach the first emperor rank at a young age, his future achievements are also limitless. Feng Yi also covered her surprised lips, and then looked at Xiaoyan beside her, as if she had made a decision in her heart. I wonder how much Xiaoyan can achieve this time. Sun Ming also said curiously. According to my speculation, since Feng Yi is the soul of the emperor, Xiaoyan's soul power is too much stronger than hers, so it is not surprising to evaluate it as 8. Yao Mei also played with her fingers and then put on a temptation as human arc. Is it an 8? It's really amazing. It is worthy of being an alchemist of the first-rank emperor. Several people were also constantly chatting. Mo Chen stared at the spirit-absorbing orb in his hand and suddenly found that the spirit-absorbing orb began to change. Unlike others who were slow, this time it was changing rapidly. 8. A striking number appeared on the suction bead. Sure enough, said several people who had already completed the test. When Xiaoyan heard this, he was also gathering in the spirit-absorbing orb, devoting all the soul power in his body. Seeing this, Mo Chen didn't have time to rejoice when he saw the spirit-absorbing bead in his hand beating slowly, and then everyone saw Mo Chen's eyes staring at the spirit-absorbing bead. 9. It's actually 9. Mo Chen also shouted with joy. It's not over yet, Yuuru said with sharp eyes. Xiaoyan, whose eyes were tightly closed, had previously mobilized all the soul power in the soul realm in his body to irrigate the spirit beads, but now he is powerless to open his eyes. Hearing Mo Chen's words, Xiaoyan also nodded in satisfaction, and just about to open his eyes, he was shocked by a force in his body, because he suddenly discovered that in the deep part of his body, in the place of his soul realm, a force also gathered crazily towards the spirit-absorbing orb. And Mo Chen, who was overjoyed, obviously did not find this power. However, just when that power was injected into the spirit-absorbing orb, the original 9 on the spirit-absorbing orb suddenly changed.
Hi! I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get updated on my latest video. Thank you for watching.